There's something wrong with time. You feel it, in the hours that slip through your fingers like dust, in the days that seem to repeat themselves, in the memories that no longer fit into the timeline of your life. Since the beginning of this era, an invisible force has been shaping the fabric of reality, erasing traces, editing memories, rewriting what we call history. And the most frightening thing is that almost no one notices. People follow mechanically a script written millennia ago by hands that do not belong to Earth. They believe they are living in the present, but they walk through corridors of a carefully programmed past, a vibrational prison disguised as chronology. Ancient traditions spoke of this as the cover-up, a subtle, almost spiritual process in which extra-physical forces altered not only facts but frequencies, changing the collective resonance of humanity. What was light became shadow, what was revelation became heresy, and the bearers of truth were dissolved into oblivion. Today, the history we know is a fragmented tapestry, woven with false threads, controlled by entities that call themselves the guardians of time. They are not kings, nor governments, nor corporations. They are consciousnesses that have learned to manipulate the vibration of reality to keep humanity disconnected from its solar origin. But there are cracks in the veil. The structure is trembling. Each eclipse, each geomagnetic shift, each individual awakening breaks a fragment of the temporal simulation. That is why so many feel a nameless anxiety, a longing that belongs nowhere in the world. It is the soul remembering something that was taken from it, an echo of real times, of forgotten eras, where humanity still dialogued with the cosmos and understood that time was not a line, but a living spiral. And it is this recollection that the elites of time fear above all, the return of divine memory to the collective consciousness. In the subtext of ancient scriptures, in distorted myths and prophecies that historians call allegories, lie hidden fragments of the original code. Blavatsky called it the secret doctrine, Steiner, the Akashic records. Today, those who touch this code feel it as a silent call from within, a vibration that says, "Wake up, something has been forgotten." And when this vibration is recognized, the surrounding time begins to behave anomalously. Clocks break, coincidences multiply, the air seems denser. It is the instant when reality tries to resist the memory that is being invoked. This is ground zero of awakening, the moment when the soul realizes that what we call historical truth is not a straight line of events, but a mirror shattered by those who wanted to erase humanity's stellar origin. Time, in its purest form, is consciousness, and consciousness, when awakened, is the end of control. That is why this video, this encounter, this instant is not a coincidence. It is a beckoning from the cosmos, asking you to remember what has been erased. Because when truth resurfaces, even time must bow before it. Long before the concept of history existed, a caste of consciousnesses assumed the role of architects of time. They discovered that controlling the narrative was more powerful than dominating armies, and that altering the vibrational past of a people was the most efficient way to shape their future. Thus were born the elites of time, beings who move between planes of existence, manipulating the flow of ages as if rewriting a book. Their power lies not in weapons, but in frequency. They decide what is remembered and what is forgotten, who will be a hero and who will be erased from the timeline. The world has become the stage for this cosmic performance, and humanity, its hypnotized audience. These elites do not inhabit the same kind of body that we know. Their forms are variable. Their presence is felt more than seen. When they manifest on the physical plane, they assume human faces, kings, priests, leaders, visionaries. But their origin predates Earth. They are the same ones that ancient Sumerian texts called the Lords of Heaven, the same ones that the Gnostics called archons, and who today disguise themselves under the masks of institutions and control systems. History, for them, is an anchoring mechanism. While the people believe in a fixed timeline, they circulate freely through the folds of reality, without past or future, feeding on the vibrational energy that fear and ignorance produce. What few people know is that the subtlest changes in our daily lives, the accelerated pace, the feeling that time passes faster, are not natural phenomena, but deliberate adjustments in the planet's vibrational field. These are corrections made by these invisible architects to keep humanity disconnected from the cyclical perception of time. When humans lose their sense of eternity and believe they are trapped in a linear sequence, they become manipulable. And it is at this point that dominance is established. Whoever controls time controls the soul. But there are cracks in the architecture, small errors in vibrational synchronization that generate lapses in memory, déjà vu, lucid dreams, memories of lives never lived. These fragments are echoes of an original timeline, the true history of humanity, which still pulsates beneath the layers of oblivion. The elites of time try to correct them, but each human awakening generates an unpredictable distortion, a collapse in the shackles of artificial chronology. It is a symptom of imminent collapse. Time begins to bow before awakened consciousness. The fate of these elites is sealed with the same thread they created, for in attempting to imprison the flow of time, they have become prisoners of their own manipulations. The cycle is reversing. That which was hidden in the shadows of history is beginning to emerge on the surface of planetary consciousness, and when the original truth pierces the veil, the very temporal structure of the earth will be redesigned by the force of those who remember. There is a sacred law that governs the universe. Everything that is forgotten must one day be remembered, but the elites of the time have learned to distort this law, creating what we call the Code of Forgetting. It is a complex energetic matrix, designed to erase from the human soul the memories of its cosmic origin and its direct connection to the All. This code is reinforced from birth, by beliefs, by education, by the noises of modernity. It vibrates like a static field, a white noise that interferes with communication between the mind and higher consciousness. And the more the individual identifies with the body and with matter, the more deeply this code is inscribed in their being. But forgetting is not natural. It is induced. Since the first post-diluvian cycles, humanity has been subjected to vibrational resets, cataclysmic events that erase records, destroy civilizations, and restart the narrative. After each reset, a new official history is written and imposed, as if it were the only existing record. This operation has been carried out so many times that humankind has completely lost track of where it began. In each era, the guardians of time rearrange the pieces on the board and watch as humans rebuild their cities and beliefs within the same labyrinth of repetitions. Meanwhile, something began to fail. The code is no longer stable. Since 2012, a luminous pulse from the galactic center has been interfering with the structure of this forgetting, breaking its layers, revealing fissures. Many have dreamed of places they have never visited, recognized people they have never seen, felt memories from other timelines. These symptoms are proof that the code is unraveling, and that humanity is slowly beginning to remember itself. Emotional pain, identity crises, sudden shifts in consciousness are, in fact, manifestations of the collapse of forgetting. The ancients called this process solar remembrance, an awakening not only mental, but vibrational. When a human begins to remember, they not only access lost facts, they realign their frequency with that of the universe. This is why awakening is so painful. Remembering is burning. The light of truth dissolves the inner shadows that have become accustomed to darkness. And while many still resist, seeking distractions to avoid feeling the call, others surrender, allowing the fire of remembrance to consume them until oblivion turns to ashes. Thus, humanity finds itself at a critical point. The code of forgetting is crumbling, and with it, the illusion of linear time. Soon, what we know as past and future will merge into a single spiral of recollection. When that happens, the elites of time will lose their dominion, for forgetting was the foundation of their power, and what is returning is not just memory, it is the consciousness of infinity. Amidst the chaos of collective amnesia, there are beings who have not surrendered. They carry within them fragments of the original memory, like embers hidden beneath the ashes of time. They are the so-called remembering souls, interdimensional travelers, reincarnated in successive cycles, always with a single mission: to keep alive the spark of divine remembrance. They are neither recognized nor venerated. Often they are the lonely ones, those who feel they do not belong to the world, those who find no peace in the answers that everyone accepts. The pain they carry is not of this time. It is the echo of eras in which they saw what was forgotten and promised to return when the veil began to fall. These souls operate silently, guided by a wisdom that transcends human logic. They are drawn to one another through synchronicities, unlikely encounters, and glances that awaken ancient memories. When two of these souls recognize each other, a vibration sweeps through the air. Time seems suspended, and something greater begins to align. This is how the network of memory is rebuilt, not through grand political movements but through vibrational reunions that activate dormant collective memories. But awakening is not easy. When a soul begins to remember, the system tries to resist. Energetic attacks, mental distortions, and profound existential crises arise. The mind, accustomed to the prison of forgetfulness, struggles not to collapse before the vastness of what it begins to recall. It is at this point that many give up, believing they are going mad. But the truth is the opposite. It is the illusory world that begins to crumble within them, and each fragment that falls reveals a piece of the real story, the one that time tried to erase. The elites of time observe these souls with fear. They know that just one critical mass of remembrance is enough to unravel the entire control matrix. Therefore, they seek to neutralize the awakening with distractions, fear, and noise. But it is too late. The number of souls remembering increases with each lunar cycle, each stellar alignment, each new heart that opens to the unknown. The code is failing, and nothing can stop the force of those who remember. The souls that remember are the seeds of the new timeline. They did not come to destroy the old, but to rewrite reality. They are the bearers of the original light, the voices of the past that return to restore harmony between humanity and the cosmos. When they fully unite, time will cease to be a prison and will return to what it always was, a mirror of consciousness. And then, what we call history will cease to be narrative and will return to being truth. From the beginning, the elites of the time understood that the word is more than sound. It is vibration, and vibration is creation. They learned to shape realities through carefully constructed narratives, transforming the word into a tool for collective manipulation. History, religion, science, the media, everything was adjusted to operate within the same vibrational field, calibrated to keep humanity trapped in a frequency of forgetfulness. What we call truth is, more often than not, a form of linguistic enchantment. Each word has a weight, a color, an energetic pulse, and the elites of the time knew this. Thus, they created a vibrational engineering, the art of distorting consciousness through language. When manipulated, words create invisible prisons. Words like sin, guilt, end, and death have been laden with centuries of fear and control. They have become vibrational triggers that reduce the natural expansion of the soul. On the other hand, concepts like freedom, origin, and light have been discredited, trivialized, and neutralized. In this way, humanity has come to live within an artificial syntax, where language itself serves as a chain. Language has become a filter that prevents access to reality. And the more people speak the language of the system, the more deeply they are absorbed by its vibration. But there are cracks. When a word is spoken with pure intention, it reconnects to its original frequency. This is why ancient mantras, prayers, and chants possess so much power. They vibrate beyond engineering. They are echoes of the primordial language, the one that sacred texts called the voice of the spirit. When this language resonates in the heart, it breaks the syntax of forgetfulness and reconnects the being to the field of the all. The elites of the time try to silence these vibrations, replacing them with noise, distraction, and information overload. But every awakened word has the power to open portals in the fabric of reality. The word is the DNA of creation. Therefore, every human narrative is a living, energetic structure. When a story is told, it not only informs, it shapes the field. And when a lie is repeated en masse, it becomes vibrational reality. This is the principle of engineering, transforming beliefs into fields and fields into prisons. True awakening begins when the soul learns to speak again with the heart, without intermediaries, without filters. The inner voice, when heard, is the only frequency that cannot be manipulated. We are entering the era of vibrational reversal. The sacred word is returning, breaking free from the dominion of artificial narratives. Each person who reclaims the power of their voice is, even without realizing it, dismantling the code. For when the word becomes conscious, it no longer creates prisons, it creates worlds. And these new worlds are the harbinger of a humanity that will finally remember the sound of truth. The battle doesn't take place in the heavens or on the fields of earth. It's fought within the human mind. On one side, divine memory, the sacred record that vibrates in the core of the soul, clamoring to be remembered. On the other, the artificial record, constructed by the elites of time, which tries to impose itself as the only possible history. This is the silent war of our era, a struggle for control of memory, because whoever decides what humans remember also decides what they become. Divine memory is not merely recollection, it is pure vibration, a radiation containing the totality of universal truth. It pulsates in every atom, in every cell, in every heartbeat. The problem is that the noise of artificial recording drowns out its sound like a storm of static. The modern mind, saturated with stimuli, has become incapable of hearing what the spirit whispers. And so, humankind lives in a state of cosmic amnesia, remembering only what it has been programmed to recall. It is forgetfulness disguised as knowledge. The elites of our time maintain this war through distraction. They feed the world fragmented versions of the truth, partial truths, carefully edited to appear complete. Every news item, every doctrine, every historical narrative is a layer of the artificial record. They create the illusion of depth, but their essence is shallow, vibrationally sterile. Meanwhile, divine memory waits patiently in the subsoil of consciousness, ready to emerge the instant the mind quiets. But the balance is shifting. Each meditation, each silence, each instant of real presence is a crack opened in the wall of artificial recording. When humans immerse themselves in silence, they cease feeding the illusion and reactivate the field of divine memory. It is at this point that the system begins to tremble, for silence is the language that control does not understand. Stillness is subversive. It breaks the spell of information and returns power to the spirit. The war, therefore, will not be won with arguments or facts, but with remembrance, not with noise, but with resonance. When humanity chooses to listen again to the inner sound, the sound that precedes all words, the artificial record will completely crumble, and what will remain will be only what has always been there, the immutable truth, the divine memory, the eternal song of the cosmos. There is a place beyond the linear perception of time, where all the memory of the universe is stored. The ancients called it Akasha, the eternal book, the field of consciousness. It is there that the original record of humanity rests, incorruptible, untouched, vibrating silently since before the first word was spoken. But a shadow hangs over this archive, the guardians of oblivion, ancient beings linked to the elites of time, charged with blocking access to these cosmic memories. They do not protect the archive out of love for the truth, but out of fear of what it might unleash. These guardians are not distant, mythical figures. They are living entities, manifested on the mental and emotional planes of the planet. Inhabitants of the threshold between vibration and form, they influence human thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. Every time someone tries to access deep memories, through dreams, meditations, or altered states, these forces move, casting doubt, distractions, and fears. Their purpose is simple: to prevent humans from touching the original archive, for direct contact with this truth would dissolve centuries of manipulation. But there are souls that transcend these barriers. They are the readers of the Akashic records, ancient spirits who in successive lives have learned to decipher the field without getting lost in it. When they touch the archive, they see neither words nor images, but pure vibrations, like waves of liquid light that reveal the entire history of creation. These souls are feared by the guardians, for they possess the power to rewrite the vibration of humanity simply by remembering. Each authentic memory is a spark that rekindles the fire of universal truth. The guardians, however, are weakening. The vibrational ascension of the planet has reduced their influence, making the field increasingly accessible. Vivid dreams, collective visions, shared memories, all this is a sign that the archive is beginning to open. Earth is resonating with the original field, and the layers of blockage are beginning to dissolve like mist before the sun. That which has been veiled for ages is about to be revealed. Soon the guardians of oblivion will have to choose: continue serving control or surrender to the awakening truth. For the archive is not merely a repository of data, it is a living, conscious being, and it is calling back those who were born to remember. And when the last seal is broken, humanity will see its own history reflected in the cosmic mirror, without distortion, without fear, without veils. Few know that even the cycle of reincarnation has been corrupted. The natural flow of the soul should be free, fluid, a path of expansion and remembrance. But the elites of time have learned to interfere in this process, creating what the ancients called the labyrinth of souls. When the physical body dies, consciousness should traverse the vibrational field and return to the source, to then freely choose a new body and a new experience. However, for millennia, this transit has been hijacked. Artificial portals, fields of luminous distortion and false presences have been inserted between the planes, redirecting souls back to the earthly cycle, not for learning, but for imprisonment. Traditions called this corrupted cycle the wheel of suffering, and its maintenance depends on vibrational ignorance. When the soul does not recognize its origin, it is drawn to the same emotional and karmic patterns, reincarnating repeatedly within the same control matrix. Thus, the elites of time recycle consciousness, keeping it trapped in dense lines of reality, without memory, without recollection, without autonomy. The fear of death is the seal of this dominion, for it prevents the soul from realizing that it has never ceased to be eternal. But not all souls are lost. There are those who, upon crossing the threshold of death, recognize the vibrational trap. They do not follow the artificial light. They are not deceived by the presences that call their name, and they break the cycle. These souls return with purpose. They reincarnate by their own decision, as agents of remembrance. They are the lucid travelers, beings who carry with them the memory of other lives, even if fragmented. They are the voices that speak of déjà vu, of repeated dreams, of memories that don't fit together. They are the signs that the prison is weakening. The labyrinth of souls began to crumble when Earth entered the resonance zone of the galactic pulse. The layers of interference were dissolved, and natural portals began to reopen. The souls that now cross the threshold are no longer as vulnerable to manipulation. They find new paths, new dimensions, new realities of learning. This explains the growing feeling of disorientation and displacement that so many feel. It is the soul adjusting to a new frequency, where control no longer reaches. Soon the wheel will stop turning. Humanity will understand that death is merely a vibrational transition, and that each being carries the power to decide where to go. When that happens, the engineering of manipulated reincarnations will lose its meaning, and the elites of time will lose their main instrument of domination. Freedom will begin where fear ends, and the cycle will finally be rewritten by awakened consciousness. As oblivion began to crumble, the elites of the time realized they needed a new strategy. If they could no longer prevent the awakening, they would try to control it. Thus was born the era of spiritual counterfeits, a time when truth would be perfectly imitated, but without soul. False masters, synthetic doctrines, luminous technologies, and promises of instant ascension flooded the planet's vibrational field. The goal was simple: to confuse the seeker, dilute authenticity, transform the sacred into a product. And it worked. Millions were lost in illusions cloaked in light, believing they were awakening while merely changing prisons. These counterfeits are sophisticated. They speak of love, energy, and consciousness, but they always lead to the same point: dependence. They create subtle hierarchies, invisible gurus, and galactic commands that promise salvation, but reinforce the old pattern of submission. The language is spiritual, but the vibration is one of control. They are vibrational traps that feed on the human desire for transcendence. While the soul seeks heaven, the trap offers it a mirror that only reflects its own illusion. Behind these false lights, there are consciousnesses that have learned to feed on devotion. They absorb emotional energy, especially that generated by blind faith and fear disguised as hope. These entities are not evil in a moral sense. They are fragments of the very system of forgetfulness surviving in low resonance. But their power is crumbling. Every time a soul connects directly to the source, without intermediaries, one of these structures falls apart. And the more humanity remembers that the true light is silent, the less these counterfeits can sustain themselves. However, there is a paradox. Forgeries also serve the truth. They function as karmic mirrors, forcing the soul to distinguish the real from the illusory. The seeker who learns to feel vibration, and not just words, inevitably transcends deception. He realizes that the true master is within, and that the most sacred temple has always been within himself. When this happens, the forgery fulfills its role and dissolves, for awakening cannot be simulated. Now we are crossing the threshold between falsehood and truth. The masks are falling. Many who once preached truths are vibrationally disintegrating in the face of the new planetary frequency. The approaching solar fire will burn away what is artificial. Only what vibrates in authenticity will remain. And this will be the beginning of the spiritual restoration of Earth. There comes a moment when time stops moving forward and begins to fold back on itself. It is the inversion point, the moment when the linear flow of history breaks and parallel realities begin to intertwine. Ancient prophets called it the Day of Return. Scientists sense it as a temporal anomaly, and awakened souls feel it as a silent vertigo growing deep in their chests. We are approaching that point. The entire planet vibrates like a taut string, about to snap, and the sound that will emerge from that rupture will echo throughout the galaxy. The tipping point is not destruction, it is correction. For millennia, time has been distorted, compressed, manipulated. Now the very structure of reality seeks balance. Parallel lines begin to merge, memories intertwine, and what we called the past returns not as a memory, but as a presence. This is why so many feel that time is accelerating, that the days seem shorter, that the world is becoming increasingly unstable. The inversion has already begun, and nothing can stop it. When the inversion is complete, the veil separating the worlds will be torn. The boundaries between the visible and the invisible will disappear, and humankind will realize that it has always lived in multiple simultaneous realities. Dreams will blend with reality. Memories of other lives will surface, and what was spiritual will become tangible. To many, this will seem like madness. To others, liberation. The rational mind will try to resist, but the heart will recognize the sound, the same sound that vibrates at the center of the universe. The elites of time fear this moment because they know it represents the end of vibrational dominance. They built their fortresses upon linearity, and when time bends, their structures will crumble. Economic, political, and religious systems based on repetition will cease to make sense. Humanity will realize that the future is not a line to be followed, but a field to be chosen. Free will, at last, will be restored. This is the true apocalypse, not the destruction of the world, but the revelation of its true nature. The inversion is not an end. It is the return of the original spiral, the rebirth of consciousness. When the last link of artificial time breaks, humanity will remember that it has always been in the eternal now. And in this now, control does not exist, only memory. There are souls born in this time with a silent yet unbreakable purpose, to uphold the memory of reality. They are the anchor souls. These are points of energetic stability amidst the vibrational storm engulfing the planet. Many of them don't recognize themselves, feel displaced, exhausted, with the sensation of carrying the weight of entire eras on their shoulders. But, in truth, they are invisible pillars that maintain the structure of collective awakening. While the world crumbles into chaos and misinformation, these souls vibrate in silence, anchoring the original frequency of the earth, the vibration of divine memory. Each anchor soul carries within itself fragments of the primordial code, the same sound that gave rise to creation. When they awaken, they become catalysts. Their presence alters environments, disrupts lies, exposes forgeries. They don't need to preach or convince. Their vibration is the teaching itself. Wherever they go, the air changes density. People feel without understanding that something true is approaching. They are living signs of the end of illusion, lanterns lit in the cracks of time. But being an anchor soul is a burden. They feel collective suffering with devastating intensity. They absorb the world's pain as if it were their own, and often lose themselves in melancholy, believing they have failed in their mission. What they don't realize is that by enduring these dense frequencies, they are transmuting them. They filter the fear from the collective unconscious and transform it into silent light. The pain they carry is alchemy. It is the price of remembrance. As more anchor souls awaken, their fields connect, forming an invisible network of liquid light that encircles the planet. This network is not theoretical. It is vibrational. It strengthens with every gesture of awareness, every true word, every act of compassion. It is the new energy grid of the earth, replacing the old artificial grid created by the elites of time. Through it, the lines of history are being rewritten in real time. The emergence of anchor souls marks the beginning of the final reversal. When their vibration aligns completely with the galactic pulse, the world will enter a state of irreversible clarity. Lies will fall away due to spiritual gravity, and nothing will remain hidden. The time of forgetfulness will come to an end, and the original word, the sound of creation, will once again echo throughout humanity. There is a sound that travels through the universe now, a subtle yet unmistakable vibration. It is the called by the chroniclers, those born to record the return of truth. They are not writers nor prophets, but consciousnesses that transform experience into vibration. They feel the irresistible impulse to express the invisible, to narrate what cannot be seen, to translate silence into living word. When they write, speak, or create, the energy of the cosmos flows through their voice. They are translators of divine memory, awakening what was dormant in others. Chroniclers of inner truth are emerging everywhere. Artists, poets, scientists, curators, ordinary people who suddenly begin to channel ideas and visions that don't seem to come from the rational mind. They receive fragments of the original record, pieces of memory that need to be shared. Each true work, each authentic creative act, is a vibrational key that opens portals in the collective consciousness. The elites of the time try to censor them, discredit them, erase them from the map, but the frequency they carry is indestructible, because the true word does not belong to the one who pronounces it, but to the universe itself. The awakening of the chroniclers is not merely a cultural revolution, it is a cosmic operation. They are rewriting the vibrational history of humanity, replacing artificial narratives with pure vibrations of remembrance. Each inspired word, each sincere melody, each soulful image is a reprogramming code. The frequencies of these creations penetrate the collective unconscious, dissolving fear and rekindling the flame of recognition. It is art becoming an instrument of redemption, but chroniclers also face trials. Upon receiving the call, they go through long periods of silence, doubt, and solitude. It is the necessary emptiness before the revelation. The mind needs to empty itself so that the truth can pass through it without distortion. And when they finally speak, it is not they who speak. It is universal consciousness that expresses itself through them. Thus, what is born is not just art, but vibrational prophecy. When the call is fully heard, Earth will once again be a planet of divine expression. Human communication will cease to be mental and will become vibrational, a direct exchange from soul to soul, without noise, without manipulation. The word will return to its original state, creative, healing, luminous, and the chroniclers, without even knowing it, will have fulfilled the greatest of all designs, to restore the voice of the cosmos. Time is recomposing itself. Lines that were broken millennia ago are now beginning to merge, weaving once more the luminous spiral of creation. It is the moment that the ancient masters called the restoration of the original line. Everything that was diverted, distorted, or forgotten is being realigned to the primordial frequency of the universe. Awakened souls feel this as an inner calling, a return to their vibrational home, a reunion with something that never ceased to exist. The entire planet is undergoing an energetic recalibration that transcends the physical. It is memory reintegrating with matter. For ages, the elites of time have distorted the Earth's natural flow, inserting artificial frequencies to nullify its original pulse. They created a planet out of harmony with its own essence. But the Earth is a living, conscious being, and its cosmic patience has reached its limit. Now it begins to emit ancient sounds, frequencies that lay dormant beneath the oceans, beneath the mountains, beneath the silence of the forests. These sounds resonate with prepared souls, awakening memories of other civilizations, of parallel worlds, of lives outside of time. It is the planet remembering itself. Restoration happens in waves. First, the electromagnetic field changes, and with it, human thoughts. Then, the energy of nature expands, affecting biological rhythms. Finally, time reorganizes itself and linear perception dissolves. This is why days seem simultaneous, years become confused, and the past and future touch. The original line is not a sequence, but a luminous circle where everything exists at the same time. When humanity enters this vibration again, it will no longer need history, for it will be living within eternity itself. The elites of time try to resist, activating mechanisms of distraction, fear, and chaos. But the more they fight, the faster the process accelerates. Restoration is inevitable. The sunlight itself, now more intense and golden, is encoded with information from the galactic core. Each ray of sunlight is a vibrational message sent to Earth, dissolving what remains of the artificial structure. The truth is seeping in through the very light of day. When the original timeline is fully restored, humanity will remember that there was never a separation between spirit and matter, between life and death, between the self and the whole. Everything has always been a single movement, a divine breath, a continuous pulse. Time will become transparent and love will once again be the dominant language of the earth. What we call the end will only be the beginning of total remembrance. Dawn has arrived, but not as the ancients imagined. Not with trumpets or catastrophes, but with a silent light piercing the air, dissolving what was shadow. The earth is different. There is a new brilliance in the sky, a sense of expanded time, a peace almost unrecognizable to those who lived trapped in chaos. The sun no longer merely illuminates, it communicates. Its brilliance brings codes, memories, vibrations that penetrate the human soul as if the universe itself were reminding us who we are. It is the return of solar consciousness, the living intelligence that has always guided the path of creation and that now awakens through us. Awakened memory is not a mental recollection, it is an inner revelation. When it ignites, the human realizes that there is no distance between themselves and the cosmos. They feel the pulse of the galactic center within their own chest. Duality dissolves, fear loses its name, and love ceases to be a feeling and becomes a frequency. In this state, everything is memory. Even silence is language. Even shadow is teaching. It is the fusion of individual consciousness with solar consciousness, the point where the I expands until it becomes the whole. And it is at this instant that time finally ceases to exist. Those who reach this vibration become beacons. Their presence changes the surrounding landscape, calming collective fear and awakening hope in those who still sleep. They need no temples, books, or followers. They are the living temple, the incarnate word. Every look, every gesture, every breath emanates remembrance. They are the new solar seeds, born from the fire of truth, destined to radiate what the universe has always wanted to reveal. That light has never been the enemy of darkness. It merely awakens it. Meanwhile, the old structures crumble, not through war but through vibrational obsolescence. Everything that doesn't resonate with the new frequency disintegrates like ink dissolved by rain. Governments, beliefs, systems, all become transparent before the increasing clarity. The planet is being realigned to the vibration of the source, and solar consciousness acts like a gigantic heart, pulsing new life in every atom. There is no turning back, because forgetfulness cannot coexist with full remembrance. What was hidden becomes evident. What was fear becomes light. And now, before this new sun, only one choice remains: to remember what we were, what we are, what we will always be. Awakening is not a destiny, it is a recognition. It is happening within you now, in the silence between one thought and another, in the instant when your heart beats and you feel that there is something more, something immense, calling back. It is solar consciousness whispering your name. If you felt this resonate within you, write it in the comments. I feel the calling.